Hello everyone and welcome back to the Part-Time Gamers YouTube channel. I am Welchie, one half of the Part-Time Gamers, and welcome back to Part-Time Gamers Weekly, the weekly episode where we discuss all the hot topics in video games, what games we've been playing, and of course we play through our Game Club Game of the Month. Still working on a new title for that. I was thinking maybe the Part-Time Gamers Club, maybe just that Part-Time Gamers Club, the Part-Time Gamers Club Game of the Month, the Part-Time... Anyway, I'm still working on that kind of title. If you've got any ideas guys, let me know. And for those of you that don't know, the Part-Time Gamers Game Club, its current title, is a book club but for games. So each month we pick a game, we play through it. Don't have to finish it if you don't want to, just play it. And then at the end of the month we'll discuss our thoughts on it. Basically review it, discuss our thoughts on it and whatnot, and give it a rating. This month's game is Prey, but we'll go into that later. For now, let's go straight in to this week's exciting topic of the week.
Topic of the week.
So this week we are going to be discussing finally the 2021 Game of the Year. So I keep getting a popping sound in this headphone. I hope the audio is okay for you guys. I really hope. Otherwise I'm going to edit this again, record it again. But hopefully it's not my ear either. That'd be worse. But anyway, 2021 Game of the Year. So we're going to go through my top 5 games of the year. I'm going to discuss a few things beforehand, like other games that aren't going to be included for some reasons. I did, obviously, Fipsy, most people know, Fipsy is the other half of the Part-Time Gamers. I did ask him if he wanted to give me his top games of the year. He didn't really play many. Most of the games that he played this year, if you've been following us and watching his streams, have been older games, such as, I think he's playing Sekiro this year, pretty sure that was this year. Dark Souls 3, he's playing Bloodborne again, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is last year. Basically all older games, other than FIFA 22, which we wouldn't really class as a game that you'd put in your top 5 games of the year. It's a yearly installment, pretty much the same every year. He's played Chivalry 2, which he played for a good few hours. And he played about 5 hours or so of Halo Infinite multiplayer. So he didn't really want to put in his game of the year, but you can take that as Halo being his game of the year, I guess, or Chivalry 2, whichever one. But he's looking forward to games much more this year. There's many more releases this year, which we're both looking forward to. So next year, maybe the 2022 game of the year, we'll both be given our own brackets. But this year, it would just be my top 5, because I did play a fair few. But I do want to go through some games that won't be on the list, that I have played. So that is 12 Minutes, The Ascent, Aliens Fireteam Elite, Back for Blood, and The Gunk. They are not going to be in contention, mainly because I didn't play them enough to give an actual opinion on the game. Sorry. And also, from what I have played of those games, they would not have made it anywhere near this top 5. I guess one of them may become sick, obviously, but they were never going to break that top 5, so it doesn't matter that I didn't play them all. Sorry, God. There are 2 other games that I want to give honourable mentions to that I did play a fair amount of, but they're just not going to make the top 5. That is Forza Horizon 5. Played a fair bit of that. Really enjoyed it. I'm still playing it. Really enjoying it. It's just not going to be in this top 5 list, in case you're wondering where certain games are. And Splitgate. I didn't include Splitgate mainly because I don't think it technically released this year. I mean, it did on PlayStation and Xbox, but I believe it's been around for years. It probably wouldn't have made the top 5 anyway, but it would have been the closest out of all of them that I've played to making that top 5. I love Splitgate, so... but I don't think it really classes a 2021 title. You may disagree. If you do believe it's a 2021 title, then maybe it's in your top 5, but for me, I'm not going to count it, and I wouldn't have made it anyway. So yeah, that leaves the top 5. If a game, I should probably say games that I haven't played that many people will be looking out for. It Takes Two, I haven't played that yet. I do really want to. Won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, as we know. Returnal, again, a game I wanted to try, I just haven't. Deathloop, some big names here. I mean, Deathloop and It Takes Two were nominated for Game Awards. Metroid Dread, haven't played that. Trying to think of other like big titles that come out this year. Hitman 3, or that's last year, 2021. Those kind of I've not played them. So if there's any others that I've forgotten that aren't in my top 5, I probably haven't played it. I have basically just now listed those first games I listed: 12 Minutes, The Ascent, Aliens, Back 4 Blood, Gunk, Splitgate, Forza Horizon. And then the next 5 are basically all the games that come out in 2021 that I have played. If it's not in my top 5, I haven't played it. I probably will play it. Kenna Bridge of Spirits. These are games that I want to play and could change my top 5 if I do eventually play them. But for now, this is my 2021 top 5. So enough explaining. Let's get straight into it. And I guess first of all, this was hard to pick a top 5. I mean, the 5 were sorted. These were always top 5, but picking the order that they came in was quite challenging. I was pretty certain on my top 2, although technically 2 of the games in this top 5 have come in late to this list. I played them recently. But looking at it now, my top 2 I was certain on. I just wasn't 100% sure which way around they were going to go. And then the bottom 3, 4 and 5, I didn't know which ones they were going to come in. So there's basically a top 2 for me, and then the next 3 like a different layer below. So starting at number 5, it is Psychonauts 2. Now, I wasn't sure I'd like this game before I played it. I remember there was loads of hype when they finally announced it and started revealing trailers for it, and it's getting closer and closer. A lot of hype for it, but it just never looked like my kind of game. Never did. It being a platformer meant that I could have been into it, because I do like other games like a platform. One is going to be in this list probably. But it just didn't look like my kind of game. But it's on Game Pass. I gave it a go, and I beat it, and I loved it. I genuinely loved it. It's a fantastic game, and there are things I like and dislike about it, which is probably why it's 5th. But what I will say, of all the top games in this top 5, yeah, definitely, this is the best level design by a mile, and probably the best level design I've experienced in a video game in a very, very long time. And I mean that in multiple ways, in the ways that you interact with the environments and the levels, but mainly just the cleverness of the design and the look of them. For example, this isn't really a spoiler. One of the first mines you go into, so for those who don't know what Psychonauts is, you play as a teenager called Raz or Rasputin, and you're basically you've got psychic powers, and you can use your psychic powers to enter other people's brains and see what they're thinking inside. It's very much, this game is very much about like mental health and stuff, and mental health problems. Anyway, the first level is designed around this dentist, and his brain, everything in this level is around the mouth, the teeth, the tongue, and it's so clever. I love the design. It's such a cool look, and there were loads of others like it, other standout levels. Off the top of my head, now I can't think of any because I haven't played it in months. Oh god, I liked there was a like a cooking show. The cooking show part was cool. It's actually quite difficult. I found that quite difficult, but it's cool as well. Then there was, god, I'm forgetting it all. But you get my point. While I'm trying to think of 5 different games at the same time. The level design is fantastic. I highly recommend anyone who hasn't played this at least give it a try. Purely for the level design. It's just so clever and so cool. The enemies, I liked, particularly the names of them and the design of them. Their names such as Doubt, Panic Attack. Literally, they're all named after some sort of mental health problem or mental state of mind, like panic attacks, doubt. I think there's one called Judgment, stuff like that, and it is very, very clever, like so clever. What brings this game down for me is the combat. If the combat was much better, like if the combat was like smooth and felt good to play and good to fight people, this could have been in the top 2. It's that good. The rest of this game is that good, but the combat I just really did not like. I really didn't like it, and it didn't throw me off the experience completely, because obviously I still love the game and I think fondly of it, and I still think about it of certain levels and stuff, like the teeth level. And the characters are great. The story is actually interesting. You don't need to actually. I think playing Psychonauts 1 would have helped me because I have not played it. But it tells you enough at the beginning, and it tells you stuff going through the game, and it's easily followable. I say easily; it's pretty followable of what is going on, and it was a fun story. But the combat I did not enjoy it. I found it. It's not even difficult. It's just clunky, and I just didn't enjoy any of the combat situations at all. I can't think of any where I thought that was fun to do that combat. It just wasn't. I found it more annoying to go into combat, and I preferred the quieter moments, looking for things, solving puzzles, I guess you call them puzzles, collecting things, and just going through the world itself. I much prefer that side of things than the combat. So that's the reason it's 5th, really, is that it's such an amazing game, but especially looking at the rest of this list, the combat is not good enough. It's just not. I didn't enjoy it anyway. Maybe other people did, but I didn't. So Psychonauts 2 coming 5th, but that is not to say it's a bad game at all. It is a fantastic game. It's just I found the combat to be lacking, which you don't really want. You want it to be fun and enjoyable. Moving on to 4, number 4 on my list, or 4th on my list, is another platformer. Hinted to it earlier. It's Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. Now, the main reason this one is above Psychonauts 2, you probably guessed it, is the gameplay. The combat in particular is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. It is the smoothest Ratchet and Clank has ever felt in combat. It is so beautifully smooth and so fun to play, and that's what pips it. Personally, story-wise, I probably prefer Psychonauts 2. Level design, I think I prefer Psychonauts 2. I do prefer Psychonauts 2. Characters, it's close. I really like the new characters in Ratchet and Clank, but I love the characters in Psychonauts 2 as well. So but the combat is so good in Ratchet and Clank, and just not good enough at all in Psychonauts 2 that it pips it for me. A lot of other people would say that the story is so good in Psychonauts 2 that it pips it, but I think when you look at it as a whole package, and I think Ratchet and Clank is shorter, there's less to do afterwards, really, but as a streamlined package, it's an extremely good experience, and the combat is fantastic, and the gameplay is so smooth, and it just pips it. What I particularly enjoy about Ratchet and Clank is the new characters, is Rivet and what's the other one's name? The new robot. You got Ratchet and Clank and Rivet and it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. But Rivet was the standout for me, as you can tell, because I can't remember the other one's name. But their story together, Rivet and this new robot, fucking name's driving me mad. I did enjoy their story. It is quite a typical storyline, and I feel like it's something that it's basically Ratchet and Clank 1. Well, it's not, but it's similar. Ratchet and Clank 1, but in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and for different characters. But nevertheless, it was interesting. It kept me wanting to find out more, what's going to happen, and yeah, I loved the game. I loved it. It was sorry guys, like I said, it wasn't the best story ever. It was quite obvious where things were going, but it was incredibly good to look at. Probably on this list the best looking game of all of them, and I think I can't think of anything today. What's that YouTube channel? I gotta look. Digital Foundry? Is that their name? I have to look because my mind's gone blank today. I'm pretty sure they're called Digital Foundry, and I'll confirm that in just a second. I can't find them. Digital Foundry, yeah, I was right. They're very much a YouTube channel. You should check them out if you haven't. That look at the specs of the games, like all the details, how the graphics, the frame rates, and they compare them between consoles, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the year, end of 2021, they did a video for the best graphics of the year, and Ratchet and Clank was Part 1, which I was quite surprised about because I thought Forza Horizon 5 gets a lot of praise for its graphics, but Ratchet and Clank was Part 1 and rightly so from my experience in games this year. It is so good to look at. Uses the DualSense well with the weapons, and even the haptic feedback with for example, one of the first levels you go past a nightclub and you can feel it pulsing, like the music pulsing in your controller. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's basically Ratchet and Clank for the PS5. It's just a Ratchet and Clank basically perfected in terms of gameplay. I think where Ratchet and Clank needs to go now is focus on the story, make a more interesting story, make a story that hasn't been done by Ratchet and Clank before. But then again, you got to think this isn't just targeted at adults. It's actually probably more targeted towards the younger audience. So they need something that's kind of easier to follow and stuff like that, which I understand completely. The weapons in this game are fantastic. Again, it makes the combat so much better than Psychonauts 2. Some of the weapons felt a bit samey, and some of them I don't end up using. One thing I think I would also bring this game down on is technically not the combat, but in the original game, which is my favourite Ratchet and Clank game, and it still is the original. I don't know if that's for nostalgic reasons, but I don't think it. I think it's just what I want when I play Ratchet and Clank games. That game again. This is much shorter than that game, and there's much less planets to visit, and the planets aren't as interesting. The original game's planets were all much different to each other and all very interesting to go and see and explore. This one wasn't as exciting to explore, in my opinion. And the combat, I felt like you're constantly switching weapons, which, like I said, it feels fantastic, and you're constantly swapping weapons and using different weapons. I guess that makes you use them all. But you never used a wrench, I found. I didn't use a wrench at all. And back in the original game, you used the wrench a lot as a weapon. I don't know if there's a reason for that transition to just using weapons, and there's so many weapons to use. You have when you open your weapon wheel, it's like 3 or 4 weapon wheels worth. And you end up kind of having your main weapon wheels, your main weapons, and you're using about 10 weapons at a time or so. And you're normally, in most combat situations, you're using all of them. That is good. I do enjoy that, but I just miss using the wrench a bit more. I don't know if that's just a nostalgic thing, but the wrench feels almost pointless now. It's more of a tool than a weapon, whereas originally the whole fun of it was a tool and it was your weapon. So, and obviously when you got to boss fights and back in the day, you would use the weapons, but going through level to level, like just normal enemies, you could use your wrench a lot, which I guess maybe I could have more ripped apart. I just didn't. No, there are times when you are so overwhelmed it just felt like you had to use weapons. Anyway, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, fantastic game, 4th in my list for game of the year. Yeah, it met my expectations, but it didn't exceed them. It was just Ratchet and Clank, but on the PS5, which is what I wanted. Obviously, I'd love more, but it's exactly what I wanted. It's what I got. I platinumed it, loved it. Should also mention I got every achievement on Psychonauts 2 on Xbox as well. So that's 2 games out of 2 so far that I've completely finished. None of the other 3 I have yet. Speaking of the other 3, let's move into number 3, which is technically the top of this little subgroup, and it's Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite is a game which I wasn't excited for. I'll be honest. When it was announced, everyone was hyped and stuff and whatever, and I get it because it's Halo, and hands out, I am not the biggest Halo fan. I started on Halo 3, played enough of it, probably played quite a lot of it, multiplayer wise. I beat the campaign a few times, and I just didn't really care for it though. Like I played it in like co-op with friends and stuff, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, it was fun, but I didn't care for the story. I couldn't tell you anything other than the last mission in Halo 3. Or what happens in Halo. Sorry, my cough is obviously still here. And I played Halo Reach. Again, couldn't tell you anything about the story, didn't care for the story, but loved the multiplayer. Played Halo 4. Again, didn't really care for the story. Enjoyed the multiplayer. And Halo 5, didn't beat the story and barely played the multiplayer. I've already put more hours into Halo Infinite, by quite a bit, probably about 10 hours already, than I did in Halo 5. So that says a lot. And there's no stopping with Halo Infinite, by the way, because I am still loving it. I'm going to start on the multiplayer because that's what came out first. It came out like a month before the campaign. As I said in my last video, now that I've got a Series X, my love for the multiplayer has just gone up tenfold. It's so much fun. It is the only multiplayer game I'm playing at the moment. I think I play it daily, at least 2 to 3 games a day, sometimes more. I think I played like 7 or 8 the other day, which isn't a lot to most people, but for me, literally names in the title of our channel, Part-Time Gamers. I'm playing when I can, sorry, and when I am, I tend to play Halo Infinite multiplayer. It's just so fun. And so much better than I thought. When I played the technical test, I think it was called, or flight, whatever it was called, a few months back, in September I think, I was worried about it. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was on the Xbox One. Maybe if I played it on the Series X, I'd have been like, this is amazing. But I was worried about it, didn't enjoy it, wasn't excited. And then, going back even further, when we saw that trailer, probably a year and a half ago now, and they first showed off Halo Infinite gameplay and it got so much stick, it did not look good and it was looking worrying. This year, that kind of worry and it delayed it, that worry kind of turned into hype again. They started to release some good stuff. I still wasn't that bothered about it, but people were starting to get excited about it, and they were right, because it is fantastic to play. Moving on to the campaign, and the campaign is good. It's very good. That's not very good. I don't even know how to say it. Basically, gameplay wise, it's the best Halo there is. It's simple as that. It's the smoothest and it's the most fun to play in the campaign and multiplayer for me. Using the grapple hook is definitely the best thing that they could have added to Halo. It feels like it should have always been there now. I don't think they'll ever release a Halo game now without that grapple hook, because it is fantastic and it just suits Halo to the T. Yes, it's open world now, so maybe that's why they did it, but it just feels so natural to Halo. It is fantastic. The other abilities, hit and miss. You've got like the shield, you've got the thrusters, the target sensor. They're all just take it or leave it. Use them if you have to. In the campaign, I've got the achievements for using them, but I used them literally to get the achievements. I didn't use them in any combat situation. I think I used a drop shield a few times. As you can imagine, that can be handy. But the rest of it, it's just a grapple hook really. It's so good to use. Getting around the world, the open world setting was good. I like the whole open world part. It's fantastic. I like all the side stuff. Again, it all feels quite natural to Halo. When they said about making it open world, I and a lot of people would have been worried, even though I don't like the campaigns anyway. But particularly because every game goes open world nowadays, you kind of just want that linear experience. But fair play to them, they pulled it off. It's fantastic, the open world. What I will say is, and this is the reason why I couldn't decide if it was good or great, it's the story. Again, for me and Halo, first of all, it's the best story I've experienced on a Halo game, but that doesn't say much for me because I don't like Halo stories. It's not I don't like them, I just don't follow them. I don't get it. I don't know if that's because I didn't really play them at 1 and 2. I have gone back to them and not beat them, but maybe that's it. Maybe if you're all Halo fans, you can all shoot me and say, and of course you understand that you haven't played them all. I get that. I do put my hands up and admit that. But I feel like you should be able to follow, like Psychonauts is a perfect example. I never played the first one, but I could follow along what this story was doing and saying and was. I could follow it. Halo Infinite, I could follow to a degree. The whole Cortana thing and this new weapon and the pilot, I could get all that. That was obvious, and it was kind of, they put that right in front of you, but I still didn't fully understand I don't really know. Basically, what the fuck happened in this story, I don't know. It ended okay. It didn't have the best ending. I don't know. Personally, for me, with every Halo story, I always feel like, what the fuck was that? And again, I feel like that again. A bit more because I like this one more because of the Cortana stuff and the weapon stuff. I like that side. I really did like that, and I kept playing to find out more about that, which is why it's my favourite Halo game. But in general, compared to the rest of the games on this list, it's the worst story for me, which stops it being number 2 or 1. Honestly, if this had a fantastic story, it would have been number 1 easily, because it's probably the most fun in terms of enjoyable gameplay, and it has the benefit of fantastic multiplayer, which the others don't. If this would have had a fantastic story, it would have been number 1. I think it would have. been at least very, very, very close to number one if it wasn't number one. So maybe you'll all say go back and play the original Halo and Halo 2 and I'll understand it, or maybe I don't think I would still. I think they're too, I don't know, mysterious with it, like I said with Mortal Shell, but with a first person shooter, do you need to be that mysterious? I don't know. Another thing I just remembered about this game that I found quite strange and boring. I'm just liking this game off more than the others, but it is fantastic to play, and I mean that. But a lot of the story stuff and the missions were just go through this room, kill all these enemies, go to another room, kill all those enemies, go to another room, kill all those enemies, and then press the button on the terminal, and then the weapon will do some fancy stuff, and then you'll go in and go to the next room, kill a load of enemies, go to the next room, kill a load of enemies, and then press the button on the terminal. I could not be the only person that's noticed that. I might have to go back and look at some other reviews, but that's what it felt like to me. It was just go to a room and press the terminal. Literally, let the weapon do something on the terminal. And I get that's how they interacted with things, but it would have been cool to see more like set piece kind of stuff. I don't know. For me, it was just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. But the actual open world stuff was probably the highlight of this game. The open world stuff, the optional stuff were the best parts of this game, in my opinion. As I said, the story was lacking. But if it had a great story, it would have been the top game on this list. It would have been, like I said, if Psychonauts 2 had amazing combat, if it felt like Halo did to play, and Halo had a story like Psychonauts 2, we'd be talking them two up there and the others down below. That's how close they were to greatness, like pure greatness. They are great games, but in terms of like the top level. But these are all just my opinions, guys. I could be completely wrong in your opinion. But yeah, moving on to the top two. I'm excited to talk about these two games. I'm actually more excited to talk about number two because I haven't spoken about it yet. I teased it last week, and that is The Forgotten City. Now, this is a game I didn't know too much about at all. But from my understanding, a few guys made a mod on Skyrim years ago, and that mod became hugely popular, like massively popular in the mod community, I guess. And they've now made that into a fully fledged, its own game out of the Skyrim world and assets and stuff into its, into its own game. It released earlier this year. I think it was nominated for a few Game Awards, not the Game Award, but a few other awards. And I heard a lot of praise on Twitter, podcasts and stuff for this game. And it came to Game Pass late November, I think. And I downloaded it and said, I've got to try it. I have to at least try it, because everyone's saying how good this game is and that it should be thought of highly. And I have to say that everyone's right. This game is a Welchie game. It is a game. It's like they said, how can we make a game that Welchie will love, and they just did it. It's second because it's not perfect, but it's goddamn close. I love The Forgotten City, and it's going to be hard to talk about it because I'm not going to say much about it, because this is the kind of game, like me, I went into it knowing that it was highly thought of, but I went into it knowing minimal details. All you need to know is that it's a time loop game. And when I talk about time loop, it's similar to 12 minutes where your day resets. Now, this is what 12 minutes should have been. I didn't like 12 minutes that much because of the controls and stuff. So it's more the controls that I didn't like. But The Forgotten City is time loop done right. It is so good. I don't want to say much else other than that. The title is obviously a giveaway to some of it. You're in a Forgotten City. That's all you need to know. And you're in a time loop. The characters are fantastic. I particularly loved one of the characters named Galerius. That's not a giveaway, but I really just want people to play this. If you're listening to this for the first time, never heard of this game, just give it a go. Please give it a go. It is fantastic. I'm talking like it should be number one, and it was close. Honestly, closer than it should have been. Galerius is a fantastic. I love him as a character. I absolutely love him. And there's loads of other great characters. It's one of those games where the story is so good and so interesting that had to keep playing. I had to. Every time I logged on, before I started playing this, it was Halo. In my time of playing this game, I was like, well, I've got, even if it's 10 minutes, I've just got to do something in this game and find out more. It is fantastic. Helping those different characters. I should probably say that this game is it's a mystery adventure game. It's basically a crime investigation. Is that the word? Yeah, it's basically an investigation game. You're going around asking questions, finding out more, and working out murder mystery. That's what I was trying to think of. Murder mystery game. In a time loop fashion. Set in a great city with great characters, and yeah, the gameplay, there isn't much combat. There's minimal combat, but there is some combat. And that, again, like Psychonauts 2, isn't the best, but this game wasn't designed around combat. Psychonauts 2 has so much combat that it should have been better. This game's combat was clunky, like Skyrim for me. A lot of people love Skyrim, but I find it clunky. It felt like Skyrim, to be honest. But it's almost forgivable because you could tell that wasn't the focus of the game. It was just there for the narrative, really. It was there for the narrative and to progress the story, and it does so well. I cannot speak highly enough of this game. It looks great, visually great. It's not a Ratchet and Clank look-alike, but I'd probably say it's as good as Halo Infinite, with a much smaller budget, I imagine. Maybe not quite as... you know what? I think it is as good as Halo Infinite. I'm gonna say that. Maybe not, but I think it looks good. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's got multiple endings. It's one of those games where it's multiple endings, and you can do things your own way, but it's not too like that. Sometimes when games try to do too much like that, like Detroit, although I'm a big fan of Detroit, Become Human, this does it so you can do things in any order. You can just completely ignore that kind of storyline and just focus on the other character storylines, or you can do them all, or you can just do one, I guess. And yeah, there's 4 different endings you can get, basically. You can get to those 4 different endings in your own way, but if you play this game and got all the endings, you'd have played the same way as me, if that makes sense. You can just do it in different orders, or I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you can take your own route, but you will eventually end up in the same place as me. And I've done every character storyline. I know exactly what you would have done, if that makes sense. There's only one real way you can go with each character, I think. I guess not. I guess there's a few characters you can go a couple of ways. But anyway, if you want to solve everyone's problem, there's a way of doing it. But yeah, it's a fantastic murder mystery adventure game. It's not that long. I mean, technically you can finish this game and roll credits in 5 minutes if you get ending 1 the way I did for an achievement. But I don't think you would get it unless you just look up beforehand. Typically, I played this game blind and I got ending 2. I get ending 2? I think I got ending 2, yeah. For the first time, and I stumbled upon it. Like, I was aiming for the whole... There's a way of the canon ending is ending number 4. I didn't notice at the time, but I was planning on doing everything this game had to offer me and then finishing the game. I stumbled on the ending, like, completely accidentally. Those of you that play this will know this. I guess I basically solved the murder. I solved one of the mysteries. It's hard to explain. I don't want to spoil it, okay? So I'm going to stop talking about it. But yeah, I stumbled upon it and I was like, oh shit. And it was one of those moments where my mouth dropped. I was like, oh shit, this is cool. And I didn't see it coming. Another good twist. I'm talking way too much about this game. I've still got other games to talk about. But I cannot recommend this game highly enough. At least try it. If it's not your kind of game, I get it. It's slow because it's murder mystery, it's adventure. It's not focused around combat. But the characters, the story is all interesting enough. Please try it. It's on Game Pass. Try it. If you haven't got an Xbox, I don't know how much it costs, but it can't be a full price game because of the indie developer and the size of it and whatnot. I imagine it's like £30. I don't know for sure, so don't quote me. But I highly recommend it. And that is my second in the Game of the Year list. And it could have been first. And what would have made it first is recency bias, because the game that is first I played earlier in the year. It's the first game I played this year out of this list, but it is number 1. And I think you have to try and not fall into that recency bias trap. Same as Psychonauts 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Originally I was going to say Psychonauts 2 was better, but then I was thinking actually when I go back I did really love Ratchet and Clank. The gameplay was smooth and it come forth. Same thing happened here. I was close to putting Forgotten City top because I loved it that much. But then this game that is number 1, I remembered how much I love that, and that is Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village, I guess it wasn't technically my top most anticipated game this year because 2021, because I was expecting Horizon Forbidden West and potentially God of War Ragnarok, even though I was always sure it was going to get delayed. So it wasn't technically my number 1 anticipated, but if you don't count them, if you count the games that actually came out last year, Resident Evil Village was definitely my most anticipated, and it lived up to the hype for me massively. I would even say in parts it overdid what I expected. I knew it wasn't going to be as good as Resident Evil 7 Biohazard because that game is special to me, and I think to a lot of people that play Resident Evil. The Baker family and Resident Evil 7 are fantastic, but we're not here to talk about that game. Basically, I knew it wasn't going to be as good, but it's close. It is close, and closer than I expected it to be. You carry on the story of Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7 and Mia Winters, who have had a baby, and then shit goes down in their house. You start in their house. I'm telling you the story, and then the baby gets kidnapped, your wife is murdered, Mia Winters, and you're kind of left to it. I think they take you along, don't they? Yeah, they take you and the baby. But then the car crashes, the baby's missing, everyone's missing, and you've got to find your baby. Cool, interesting concept. You walk into town and there's load of lichens around. I call them lichens, is it license? I don't know. And shit goes down. Obviously, anyone who knows anything about Resident Evil Village knows about Lady Dimitrescu, the vampire lady, who's like 9 foot tall, I think. She is a highlight of this game. She's fantastic. She is terrifying, much scarier than the trailers made her look. And I think that's because she's basically stalking you and chasing you around her mansion, similar to how Jack Baker did in Resident Evil 7 and how Mr. X, or the Tyrant, does in Resident Evil 2. Yeah, she's terrifying, and the moment when she gets you the first time fucked me up. It scared me. And you're always on edge with her. Not all the enemies were as cool and as interesting as her. So basically there's 4 kind of main villains in this game. Well, technically 5. But 4 originally. And she's the best one. The second one is the Benevenito house. And I've said it, I think I've said this on record before. I don't know where. I've said it somewhere. I've probably said it on Twitch stream. Probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced in video games ever. And when I've looked back, I've watched other videos of it, and I think I might have even watched my own stream back, and it doesn't seem as scary when you watch it, but when I was playing it in darkness, it terrified. I could not explain how much it scared me. I was genuinely, and I think once I got through it, I paused it and said that's enough of that. I am done. No, it really did fuck me up. And I have to give credit. I'm the kind of person who likes that experience. Obviously at the time it's like, fuck. But I like that experience. I look for that experience in a horror game. I wouldn't play it otherwise. And that was so good. And I'm glad the whole game wasn't like that, because I would have really, really struggled with it. But I would have liked the rest of the game to be a bit more like that, because other than Lady Dimitrescu and then that, the rest of it's not that scary. There's moments in the last kind of villain, what's his name, Heisenberg. There are moments with him which are a little bit scary. The third boss, the fish man, I can't remember his name, Morale. He wasn't scary at all, and he's probably the weakest point of the game. But that's not to say he's awful. It's just compared to the others, he didn't stand out very much. But the rest of them are fantastic. The voice acting brilliant in this game. Heisenberg is very good in this game. His voice acting. and obviously Lady Dimitrescu, who won a Game Award for her performance as Lady Dimitrescu. Is it Maggie Robertson? I probably got that name completely wrong, I apologise. But she won a Game Award, and deservedly so. The combat, the gameplay, fantastic. It's like Resident Evil 7, first person, but this time there's a shop, there's a merchant. I like the merchant as well. Merchant was great. Again, I think I preferred the way Resident Evil 7 handled kind of like weapons and stuff rather than buying them from the merchant. Or I guess you found them, but like you bought stuff from the merchant, and I think I prefer Resident Evil 7's way, but I did like this way as well. And yeah, it's a fantastic game. I feel like I'm not hyping this one up as much as I was Forgotten City, and the reason for that is this is just Resident Evil, but the second best one. I don't know. It's a fantastic Resident Evil game, which we all know and a lot of us love, and I love, and that's the reason why it's top, because it's so good and I loved it so much. The enemies are fantastic. The werewolves, the Big Daddy Lycan, whatever his name was. There's so much variety in this one, which I really enjoyed. But I think the reason I'm not hyping this one up as much is because Forgotten City was such a shock to me and a surprise. Whereas Resident Evil Village is, you know what you're expecting, but it delivers. It delivered what it was supposed to deliver. And I've played it through twice as well in quick succession, which isn't like me. I guess technically I did Resident Evil 2 like that, but Resident Evil 7 it took me a while to go back to, even though I loved that game a lot. But that was also technically because Resident Evil 7 was scarier than this one. But no, massive fan of Resident Evil Village. It's my game of the year, and like I say, it was close between that and Forgotten City. I feel bad for Forgotten City, but Resident Evil Village is just so well polished. It's such a fantastic game, and it's got everything you need in Resident Evil. The combat's great, the story's great, it's interesting, you want to find out more, it keeps you hooked. The villains are great apart from Morale. I can't say his name, so the Fishman, Morale. And I think the start of the game is so good, that the Lady Dimitrescu one and the Benvenuto house is so good. And I think that's the problem with Resident Evil games actually, is that they start well. Every single Resident Evil game starts fantastically. Resident Evil 7 is famous for starting incredibly and ending pretty badly, which I disagree with to an extent. I don't mind the second half of the game, but it's not the first half was so good. Resident Evil 2 is the best part of the game is in the police station, and when you're out of the police station, it's still good. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, but it's not the police station. With this one, Lady Dimitrescu's house was the highlight. Benvenuto house was like the scary part of the game, the really fucking scary part for me, and the rest, it goes down, it goes back up again. I think that helps that it goes back up with Heisenberg. But anyway, it's a fantastic game. As I've probably gone through on all of these games have their bad points. For example, Resident Evil Village is the morale kind of portion of the game. It gets a bit slow and dull. Other than that, Resident Evil Village is pretty much exactly what I wanted, and more, because the story was better than I expected it to be. It still has questions to answer at the end, but there seems to be a little tease at the end as well that Resident Evil 9, which they've also said will be the last of like a numbered game, can answer those questions. So they've purposely left it open, I think. I hope so. Otherwise, if it was to end there, I'm pretty confused with a few things. But anyway, fantastic games. All 5 of these games, I have to say, all 5 are fantastic. In a year where you could argue that it wasn't as strong as previous years, I found 5 games that I really, really enjoyed. But if you put these 5 games into other years, they would have struggled in the top 5 list. I don't think... Well, none of these would have won in 2020, because The Last of Us won that. Last of Us Part 2. They would have won in 2019. That was another off year. 2018, Resident Evil Village would have probably come 4th for me. Maybe 3rd, actually. Maybe 3rd. But that's 2 games above it. So, anyway. I digress. I'm talking too much now. This video's gone long enough. Yeah, that's my top 5 games of the year. That is 2021 officially over. There's no more talk about 2021. Let me know, guys, what is your game of the year? I want to know what your game of the year is. Just leave me a comment, leave me a tweet on the Part-Time Gamers channel, Twitter, sorry, or reply on an Instagram picture. Come into our streams and tell us anything like that. I want to know what your game of the year is, and if you're happy for me to, I'll discuss them in next week's episode. What's your game of the year? Is it any of the ones I mentioned? Is it a game I haven't played, like Deathloop? Are there any games that I haven't played from 2021 that you recommend I should play that you think would break my top 5? Then let me know. I'm really interested to hear everyone's game of the year. I always love that kind of conversation of what everyone's game of the year is, and everyone always has different. A lot of people, every podcast I listen to doesn't even mention Resident Evil Village, so it shows how much I must love that game, because there are a lot of people that love Resident Evil, but from what I'm hearing, Village didn't make a lot of people's top 5s, which surprised me because of how much I enjoyed it. So yeah, let me know your top 5, guys. Before we go, I do want to just mention again the Part-Time Gamers Game Club Game of the Month. I hate that title, but it's what it is for now. Is Prey. I've started it. I've played about an hour, not much more than that. You would have probably seen most of my gameplay. I played a little bit more, but I played when I streamed it the other day. That's now on YouTube available. If you haven't watched that, then go watch it, because it might make you want to play Prey, because that opening is wild, absolutely wild. So I'm really excited about carrying on playing this game. It's got a lot of potential. I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. So I'm looking forward to playing more. If you've been playing it, guys, let me know what you think so far. Don't spoil it for me if you're further than me, which you might be. Yeah, I'll be streaming that more times this week. And yeah, this video's gone on long enough. There's not much more to talk about. So yeah, thank you. Sorry, thank you so much for watching this video of the Part-Time Gamers Weekly. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I was talking, and then for some reason Siri just popped up. It didn't that time, even though I said the name. I have no idea why it popped up the first time. Anyway, apologies for that. I think I was saying, thanks so much for watching my 2021 Games of the Year. If you liked the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and mainly I want to know, what is your game of the year? What do you think of my list as well? But what is your game of the year? That's the most important question. And yeah, subscribe for more Part-Time Gamers Weekly. Next week, we're going to be going through 2022, the list of games that are coming out or supposedly coming out in 2022. And me and Fipsy will be given our Metacritic predictions. You guys can play along. I'll probably tweet out the list of games before before I record the episode, if you want to get them in for me before. And I'll do it after as well, so you can play along afterwards. Yeah, we're going to be giving up Metacritic score predictions for most of the games that are coming out in 2022 that we have some sort of opinion on. Yeah, so look out for that one. The week after that, we have nothing planned, because we're hoping some sort of gaming news happens. If not, I think of something else to talk about. And then after that, we're going to be reviewing Prey, so I need to get on that and start playing that more. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Go and play Resident Evil Village and The Forgotten City if you haven't. And Halo Infinite, and Ratchet & Clank, and Psychonauts 2. All fantastic games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.